Hi, it's Larry Call from Sales Sherpa. Welcome to Revenue Secrets. I'm on with Ravi Rajani, who I've been talking with over the past few months, and I've been following his considerable success with his business. He's started a company that he's been developing for a little while now, and he's found a rhythm, and it's working for him. And the reason I invited him onto the show is I'd love to give him the opportunity to share how he's doing it and what's working for him. So other people in the audience here, similar to Ravi and to myself in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. So I think you'll get a lot out of it. So Ravi, you want to just take it away? What have you been up to?
Yeah, man. So firstly, you and I have been hanging out for what? Probably 3 or 4 months now, gotten to know each other. So I know you're up to some cool stuff too. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity and the stage to actually talk to your community. So yeah, man, weirdly for me, I actually didn't get my start as a professional speaker or one of those dudes that has a TEDx talk that went viral. For me, I actually got my start as a kid, 7, 8, 9 years old, in dance, and like not the cool type, right? Not the one that you want to be shouting out to the rooftops about to all the girls when you're 8 or 9 years old. So I ended up quitting when I was around 10. I was like, Mom, I'm done. That's it. No more. You can't force me, even though I secretly loved it. And I ended up stumbling into acting later on as a teen. And as I grew up in my late teens, early 20s, people would sit down and say, Rav, are you actually going to take this speaking, presenting, and acting thing seriously? And all the time I'd be like, no, I want to go make some money. I really, really want to go make some money. I just come out of university. All I had my eyes on was the trading floor in investment banking. So I ended up working on the trading floor at Citibank over here in London, working in foreign exchange. And in 2016, I left that world and I entered the arena of coaching, building a personal brand, TV, radio, working as a sales leader in various high growth early stage startups. And over time, it hit me that it's not just about what you say, it is about how you say it, right? How many business presentations have we been to where we just fall asleep because it's the same thing over and over again. It's predictable, and let's be real, right? That is boring. Okay. Yeah. So the big mission that I focus on is helping leaders and executives speak with confidence so that they can actually deliver high impact presentations, get paid what they deserve, and actually get recognition for their expertise.
So what I'm hearing from you is, first, you're a Renaissance man. You've done a lot of different things, arts, business, creativity, you're all over the place. And you settled on something that I'm not sure everyone would have focused on. So this idea of presentation and tone and connecting with the audience, standing out from the crowd through better public speaking, better presentations, learning how to use video better, is what you're seeing is one of the most important secrets to success for people who are working on their own?
Dude, I mean, here's the funny thing. Let's take over here in the UK anyway, March 22nd or 23rd. I always forget the day, one of those 2 days. I decided to hop on LinkedIn properly, like for real, hop on LinkedIn. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try a 30-day video challenge, see how this goes and see what this whole LinkedIn thing is about. So I hit the platform with 30 videos, 30 days. And I was like, whoa, this is something different. Like the type of connections, relationships, friendships that I was forming was so different to any other platform that I had previously spent time on. I hadn't posted on Instagram or Facebook for probably about 1.5 years or something like that at that time. Or since like May 2019, something like that. And I'd posted on and off on LinkedIn, but never really properly. And immediately I started to see the benefits of the platform, everything from networking with like-minded individuals like you, building real connections with people. You know, in the time of quarantine, I genuinely think that was, LinkedIn has been one of the big things that kept me sane, but also helped me grow my business. Now, I think my personal opinion on this is that you have a lot of people who have amazing ideas, great pitch decks, beautiful beautifully designed emails, marketing campaigns, etc. However, when it comes to actually communicating their value, the big problem that they solve, and also who they're actually helping, they struggle with it. They really struggle with it when it comes to video, which is why every day we're seeing so many courses pop up left, right, and center about how to get better on video, because now you've got bums on seats in the office and you've got eyeballs on one place on the smartphone. And if you are on video, it just gives you a higher likelihood of getting seen. Getting seen equates to attention, which then results in connection. And that then can result in either long-lasting friendships, relationships, and hopefully business.
You've got a big personality. You've got some acting training. You have dance presentation training. So you have a natural affinity to gravitate towards this kind of thing. How do people who don't have that, who are uncomfortable on camera, maybe a bit monotonous in how they talk or how they present themselves, do what you're doing?
So I don't want to offend any actors and say I had official training. Like, I was never the dude that went through acting school. It was literally, you know, it's funny. My best friend's father was a playwright, and he was like, Rav, do you want to be in this play? And I ended up stumbling into it, ended up loving it. And a lot of people will say to me all the time, Rav, it's different for you. You know, you've been on stages since you were a kid. And my honest opinion would say, go look at some of the most viewed TED Talks, most inspirational TED Talks of all time. They're not the people who say, I have my hands like this and I project my voice perfectly and I sound articulate. It's raw, it's real, but the very, very common theme, the common pattern between all of them is that they are comfortable in their own skin because they're putting their audience at the forefront versus themselves. Now, in order to really do that, I would say it boils down to the thing that nobody really wants to address, and it's the inner work. Before we get to, okay, I'm going to teach you the sexy stuff around how to put this in your presentation to help, you know, your message convert, all of these cool things, it boils down to, well, what story have you actually sold yourself on at the time where you believe you started struggling with this? So for the bulk of my clients, they've been struggling with speaking, whether it's online or offline, their entire life. And it often boils down to a host of specific moments, you know, not being able to speak or not feeling like they had a voice as a child. Often, you know, losing their credibility and trust because they fumbled their words and completely bombed the presentation 20 years ago. And we've been telling ourselves a story that whole time. You know, for example, the common things I hear, I'm not qualified enough to be on stage and talk. Who am I to be talking about this subject topic when I've only been doing it 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Because often we end up comparing our chapter 1 against somebody else's chapter 20. And that leads to, you know, comparison, as they say, is a thief of all joy, right? You know that, we spoke about that. So for me, the key thing is first, dig deep to understand the speaking belief system. Then take the required steps to really start reframing those inner voices. Okay, you know, you've got the demanding boss, you better not mess this up. Larry, you better not mess this up. And then you've got the intern who's like, oh my God, what if the battery runs out? What are we gonna do? And then you've got the authentic founder, which is your inner voice, which gets drowned out. We want to hear more of that person before the presentations, before you hit the stage, before you press play on the video. That's the person that we want to hear. So it's about reframing those voices. And one of the tools that we actually use inside of my boot camp is hypnotherapy. People are like, what do you mean? Like, that's woo-woo. What do you mean? All that woo-woo stuff. And I'm like, no, stay with me. Stay with me. It's all about rewiring the subconscious mind. So for me, it all starts with the deep work. It all starts with the inner work. And one thing I would recommend for anybody would be to do a 10-day video challenge. The video doesn't even have to go out to the public. Pick an accountability partner, pick a forfeit, pick 10 topics, get it done, and somebody who's going to give you real feedback. Not somebody who's just going to say, you did great. That's cool. But how was your delivery? How was your story? Was it compelling? Did you nod off 30 seconds in? Being able to actually share and deliver an articulate story these days is a must-have thing, especially in the world of instant gratification.
I didn't know you were going to say this.
Mm.
And what's so interesting to me is this is the foundation for my entire life. What you just said. I have done more personal development work than anybody I know.
Yes.
And it transformed me. And I think what it does is it changes your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
So what happens is, as you recognize what you tell yourself and why you tell yourself those things, and you take yourself back to that place where you were 4 or 5 years old, and you develop those strategies that allowed you to survive your family. And you grew up with those strategies, and then as an adult, they stop working. So you have to break that pattern. You have to understand them and bring them to light and come up with new strategies.
Yeah.
There's some synaptic connections that are starting to be made, but they're loose. So if you stop and you don't develop a new habit and change how you're functioning, it goes away. Yeah. And the work doesn't last. So what I'm hearing you talking about is this, where you change your pattern, change your habit, and get into that core, and you'll change your life as a result. Mm-hmm. And you won't go backwards. I could not agree more with what you're saying. So let me ask the tough question then about this is, how many people are actually willing to do that?
Not many.
How do you get them there?
So I look for a very specific type of individual, which I suppose all boils down to who we want to work with, who our ideal clients really are. And the people that work with me, I tell them like straight up, this whole idea that it's not going to take hundreds of hours to get you to a level where you feel confident to start speaking in a way which actually commands the room, converts message, get the impact that you desire. But like any skill, it's going to take consistent practice over days, months, years, and you'll start to flourish like anything. Now, I suppose some people will say, I don't know if hypnotherapy would work for me. Cool. I don't know if a 10-day video challenge will work for me. But at the same time, if that's the narrative that you have already, then let's be real, it's not going to work for you. So I personally would say the type of individual that I want to work with is very specific, and that they have been through something their entire life. They've struggled with speaking for decades. Now, I just banged my hand there. Struggle with speaking for decades, right? So if you struggle with a problem for 30 years, 40 years, close to 50 plus years, and you're in that level of pain because it's impacting your business life, your career, your relationships, your friendships, you're at that stage where you want to throw the kitchen sink at it. Where you're saying, you know what? If it is therapy, let's try it. But if somebody came to me and they said, look, I've been struggling with it for 1 or 2 years, I would actually say, maybe you're not ready to actually work with me just yet. And that's when you may get the resistance. So I think it boils down to really understanding who you want to serve, because ultimately the people who have dealt with it for the longest period of time are more likely to want to try new things because they really want to solve that problem.
Yeah, I love what you're saying about that. And Tony Robbins has a comment in one of his talks about this, where there is a moment where the pain of changing becomes less than the pain of staying the way that you are. And until that happens, nobody changes anything. When I think of the audience that I'm looking at for my company, Sales Sherpa, with our Revenue Climber Club, I'm thinking a lot about people who have gotten to the point where they only want to work with clients they want to work with, and they only want to work with those that make their life better, that help them realize the promise of the business that they started from the beginning. But the issue they have is they don't have enough of those people lined up. You got to have an audience of those people already ready to go, where you can say, no, I'm full. Can't work with anybody new right now. And then you can always have the clients that you want. I think that's the key to life, being a self-employed person, no matter what you're doing. So what I'm hearing you say is, this isn't really about speaking or video. This is about changing your foundational belief system about yourself first.
100%. I genuinely believe if we didn't do that work first, I wouldn't feel right, because I'd be giving somebody a plaster. Hey, by the way, you've got a cut, here's a plaster. Versus let me actually create long lasting change, because I actually want people to go through my program and not just say, oh, that was good. I want them to go, oh my, that, like, shit, man, Rav, that changed my life. You know, that actually truly created long lasting change, because I think that's the thing that people are often looking for, which is the white glove treatment, the accountability. It's not as if somebody cannot sit there, watch a ton of YouTube videos, go see a hypnotherapist, watch all my content, piece it all together. You could definitely do that and get results. But the problem is we want three things. We want more time, more money, and more energy. And if you're going to give up the money to actually work with a coach, whether it's yourself, whoever it is, me, whoever it might be, yes, you're going to be saving yourself time and more energy and more money in the future. Because for a lot of my clients, it's cost and promotions, pay rises, personal branding opportunities, whatever it might be. And I think the individual really grasps that and understands that, that's where you get the great relationship. And by the way, not for 1 minute am I saying, have I worked with clients who it hasn't actually been a great fit for? Of course. But you can't know what the good feels like if you've never dealt with people who you've not been aligned with, you know? So it's not as if, oh my God, I just get perfect fits rolling through the door. I'd be lying to you. Of course, you get people who you don't connect with, but you got to kiss a few frogs, man. You got to kiss a few frogs.
Yeah, that's true. So let's say somebody comes into your program and they're willing to go through that struggle with you to open themselves up to change their life. Now let's get a little more tactical. So then what happens? What are the tips and tricks that you've learned from getting known on LinkedIn, which is eventually the key to this? You have to get known.
So let's start, I suppose, with the first part of the question is, inside of the program, there's a specific methodology called the RUD methodology, which I use. Now, RUD stands for Rewire Your Inner Speaker, Hypnotherapy, Inner Work, Makes the Dream Work, all that. And then unlocking the confidence and delivering a world-class presentation. So the unlocking the confidence comes to, well, how can I actually speak on Zoom to my clients, a team, and actually engage in an authentic way, sound like me, and not have the phone voice? You know what I mean? Like when we pick up the phone, oh, hey, darling, and you come off, you're like, bloody hell, do you know what I mean? You go back into who you really are. So how can you communicate in an authentic way? And how can you actually speak on video in a way which actually people go, man, I want to, you know, this person's different. I want to hear their message. I want to take action on their message. So actually teaching people the advanced tips to knowing your audience, how to specifically understand the problem that you're solving, how to actually put together a presentation from beginning to end, which is psychologically, emotionally, mentally, everything is put there for a very, very specific reason. And it's all about designing for your message, product, you, whatever it could be, to convert. Whatever it could be, get that relationship, more money, build a like-minded community. So I'll give you a few tactics and tips here I think are super important for maybe your audience. A lot of my clients will struggle with speaking under pressure in high-stakes scenarios. But I'll give you an example. My partner, she rides a Harley Davidson. You wouldn't catch me dead on it, right? So if she said to me, Rav, go ride the Harley Davidson, here's what's going on in my mind. I'm worried about how I'm going to get on the bike, and I'm worried about where am I going to park it, get off. I'm not worried about going 70 miles an hour, wind in my hair, feeling good. And it's the same with speaking. So we need to think about, in a pressurized scenario, how do we start and how do we end? Now imagine this. Think about the best man speech. Hey, I'd love to tell you why my friend Tim is such a great guy. And at the end of the speech, they say, and that's exactly why my friend Tim is such a great guy. Now, you don't know if actually he had 20 minutes left to still speak, but he's being told, come on. He's ended it in a way which is refined, professional, articulate, concise, and it just really, really ties in well with the beginning and end. So, for example, if you're put under pressure in a boardroom meeting, hey, can you tell me about those sales numbers? Great, I'd love to tell you a little bit more about those sales numbers. And at the end, you can say, and that's exactly You know, why? I believe the sales numbers are bang, bang, bang. End it in a way which really ties in with the beginning, and you'll come across so much more refined and feel comfortable with it. The next tip I would give is when you're speaking on video, one thing we have to think about is we can't teach too early. It's the big problem that everybody makes. They go in and they're just slamming content. The truth is, we need somebody's attention first. If I don't have your attention, Larry, right now in this moment, and you're worried about dinner, the kids, whatever it could be, then I can't teach you something. So the name of the game is attention. So we want to gain people's attention, and on a live stage, it's way easier if you think about it. It's like, hey, what's going on, everybody? What did you get up to? What did you do? What did you do? And you're getting the feedback. What people don't do enough of on Zoom is use the chat function to create the same vibes. So using the chat function as a way to test the energy, asking specific questions to really understand, am I in the right room? Is my message going to land? What makes this room tick? And then going into your story, which will ultimately convert the attention into long-lasting connection. And then you can teach them something. So the final tip I would say is look at the lens, this bad boy here. So if I'm, you know, talking to you, I'm going to look at the lens. But if I'm listening to you, Larry, I'm doing this. But if I'm talking to you, I'm doing this. And that contrast can often be quite nice versus I've been on Zoom presentations where people are talking like that the whole time.
Yeah.
Like that. And it feels, you know what I mean, you probably lost all connection with me in an instant. So those are three things I would think about. And all of those things are super important for LinkedIn. If you're developing video content, how you begin and how you end is super important. Are you looking at the lens? Are you really trying to connect with people? And more importantly, it's all about engagement. It's all about attention. So it's important. I think all of those things tie into video content for LinkedIn as well.
So what I'm hearing you say is transform yourself. Use this as an opportunity to become the person you've always wanted to be. It's not just about business. When you overcome those self-limiting beliefs, your life will change. And get professional. Think about how you're talking to people. You know, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them, and wrap it up and have the bookends of how you present. Think about techniques, about looking in the camera, projecting to the audience. Don't do one of these. You know,
Yeah,
there's all kinds of stuff
Exactly.
going on in the new Zoom era that cause problems, I think, for people. And then wait, what was the other one? I think it was number 2 I missed.
Oh,
Do
attention.
you remember?
Attention.
Get attention. Don't, and that's a good sales technique too. Of figure out who you're talking to and what they care about before you start pitching them. You know, ask the questions. And so it's sort of a similar thing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well is, let's be real for a second. You know, going back to what you said about the monotone individual, you can have the best content. I've been slammed for this before. People have disagreed, but here's my truth. Content is 1% of the game. Content needs to be 100% on point. 99% is delivery. Because if I've got an amazing message, but I can't deliver it, no one cares. It's like, it's going to get lost. So I think content is super important, but pitch, pace, tonality, all of these things are super important. You know, volume, speed, to actually get, I suppose the best way to put it is, do our expertise the justice it deserves.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that strikes fear in a lot of people's hearts, because they feel like they're smart and they're good at content and they're good at knowing what they're good at doing and they're good at communicating, but they're not good at entertaining. They're not good at engaging. They're not good at keeping people's attention, getting people's attention. And what I'm hearing you say is maybe it's a revelation for some people, but that there are ways of getting there.
Yeah.
If you don't see yourself as an entertainer and you don't have that kind of background, and that's fine.
Totally. 1000%. It's like saying, by the way, to be an entrepreneur, you need to do X, Y, and it will equal Z.
Mm.
Anybody listening to this knows it's just not the case. Actually, the beauty is the USP of your different experience. You know, people would say introverted, extroverted. I mean, like, I consider myself an ambivert. I charge up my batteries in solitude, but people wouldn't believe that. They're like, no, you're extroverted. I'm like, with the right people, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the right people, with the wrong people, I'm like, yeah. You know, so I think it's these labels that we give ourselves. Oh, I'm an introvert. Introverts aren't good speakers. Oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, I'm operationally focused. And it's these labels that really we stay in a box in. And then we create these stories. So there is 100% people just like you, whoever's watching this, who the most successful people in the world have struggled with speaking. Gandhi, Richard Branson, various American presidents have come out openly and said, I struggle with it. Imposter syndrome. There's so many entrepreneurs talk about it. And it's a big, big thing which stops people from getting on stages and getting on video and speaking. But hey, those people are still doing it regardless of those fears. And they look just like you. And often we can't be what we can't see. So it's important to find other people who look like that as well.
I was listening to a podcast, I think it was actually yesterday, and somebody was talking about Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
And he did not do well in, I think it was, I don't know if it was a public speaking class or a communications class, or, but it was something related to speaking.
Yeah.
The teacher did not understand how to draw out his authenticity.
Yeah.
And that was the key. He didn't have the techniques, but he didn't need the techniques. He needed to bring out his authenticity, and he hadn't found it yet. So from a presentation standpoint, he wasn't that good. He hadn't figured out who he was.
Here's the thing, everybody, and this is kind of like the cop-out thing I'm going to say, but you can have every strategy, technique, tip, thing in your locker, but you can do whatever you like. If you're just magnetic, you own it, and you can deliver a, like, if you have that, it beats any strategy, any perfectly, you know, formed posture, any most articulate work. It beats that any day. But the more you get comfortable in your own skin, and people love frameworks. Everybody loves a framework. So once you give them that and they get more comfortable in their own skin, they find their own voice. It doesn't happen in a day. Like you said, it doesn't happen in a day. Listen, Larry, I've actually got a coaching call with a client of mine. I'm actually 2 minutes late for it. I just realized.
Rob, thanks for joining. Let's talk about how people can get in touch with you.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I mean, LinkedIn is a place. So
find Ravi on LinkedIn and let's go.
Let's go. LinkedIn, that's where it's at. If you have any questions for me, please, 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 you can go to Larry. You can give you my email address, or you can hit me up in the DMs and see if I can support you in any way. Let me know.
Thanks again, Rav.
No worries.
Take care.
Take care, man.
Thanks for listening. If you're self-employed and tired of not having enough great clients, join our free Revenue Climber Club. Click salessherpa.co for details and to sign up for the community. Stop climbing alone and reach the summit together with us.